Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Brittany Lobel. I'm a product marketing specialist here at WillScot. And I want to personally thank you for joining us for the very first session in the WillScot's new webinar series, Exploring Smarter Space Solutions. Today's topic is how WillScot is helping our customers keep events fresh from start to finish. We're going to start today off with a brief overview of the topic, why it matters, and an introduction into WillScot's climate-controlled storage solutions. Then we have our panelists who are each going to share their expertise, offer some real-world examples, best practices, and solutions that can make a real impact. This session will run around roughly 30 minutes with a Q&A session included. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat throughout the presentation. We'll make sure to address them afterwards. So let's go ahead and let's dive in. I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Quellhorst, WillScot's General Manager for Temperature-Controlled Products. Take it away, Jeff.
Hey, thanks, Brittany. I appreciate the introduction. And for those that don't know me, I'm Jeff Quellhorst, the General Manager for Temperature Controlled Products. I've been in the temperature controlled renting and leasing industry for about 10 plus years now. I came along to WillScot via an acquisition. So I've been with WillScot for the last 2 years. I enjoy the renting and leasing of things, but things I enjoy most about being the general manager for temperature control products are the employees I get to work with, the customers and the partnerships that we get to build along the way, and then the solutions and the problems that we get to solve daily. So one of the most exciting parts of the process and of the selling of the cold storage units. Alongside me today is one of our great partners and customers that I enjoyed working with for 10 plus years now, Mr. Tom Brown Jr. from Rental Solutions. So I'll let him talk about himself a little bit.
Yes, no, it's a pleasure. I've been along with Jeff and working with Jeff for over 10 years through his transition with companies at the Kentucky Derby and a lot of other events, renovations, disaster relief, and the partnership I had with Jeff over the years is strong. It's come most of our success and their success as well. A lot of what we do, we can't do without Jeff and his cold storage, and his products been great for us, and that's why we consider him a strong partner year after year, and we can always rely on them. So thank you very much for me being part of this, and look forward to a great future too.
I'm glad to have you on here, Tom. So as we get going here, let's talk about the capabilities that WillScot has and the products that we do have. When you think cold storage, a lot of people think trailers that you see over the road, but the number one product for climate controlled containers for WillScot are these containers that sit on the ground. We have about 5,000 of these containers, and you look at the top picture there and you think it looks like a dry container. It does look like a dry container, but it is manufactured. And as you see in the bottom picture there, they're stainless steel. They're made to hold cold storage. They go from deep freeze temperatures of -31 all the way up to 80, whether you're keeping perishable or fresh fruits or just a temperature controlled. So there's a lot of variations that you can do with these things. We have several sizes, 8 foot by 10, 8 by 20, and 8 by 40. They run on electric, which is one of the great benefits that we partner with a lot of people because they can plug them in. They're quiet, and you don't have to use the use of diesel generators. A couple other things that sets WillScot apart on these climate control containers is a man door that we put in these, and the NSF certification for the public health and safety. One of the great things with food and safety, you want to make sure that these are manufactured properly. The other product that WillScot has, as we mentioned early on, is the trailers that you see. It's probably the most common over the road, whether it's at a dock, used for storage or moving a product. And WillScot has about 2,000 of these. So, multi-temp, single temp, electric, diesel, just lots of different capabilities between these two products, what gives us the flexibility to adapt and be there for the customer. When you look at these two products, close to 7,000 pieces of equipment, but puts us in the spot why WillScot's the leader in climate controlled solutions, storage solutions, with 7,000 of these deployed across the US. So when you're looking to keep your climate control products safe, why choose WillScot? And I'll let Tom, explain why he chooses WillScot and what it does for his product and how it benefits them as a company using us as a partner.
Yeah. Great. This is perfect. This is one of our perennial events, the Kentucky Derby we do every year over at Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky. And again, everything's revolved around refrigeration. Our client is the caterer as well as Churchill Downs. And for their operations, they need to do their daily load in, load out with their food and product, but now they got to do it in the infield and across the whole facility. So that's where we come to play and get with Jeff. And we have, over 15 of his units on site already. It's still 2 weeks away because we are actually in the middle of a build, and these units had to be put in place before the tents and fencing and stuff like that. But the main reason why we picked WillScot and Jeff and his product over, there's other vendors out there, is these units we know is very reliable. More than the other vendors, as well as their ground level, which is great for a client. They don't have to go up on steps or ramp. They can even use pallet jacks and forklifts. The options are endless for the doors. Like he mentioned, you can do the man door, walk through, so we're able to open up the ends completely. You got the double door or the roll-up door. We've used all with him in different applications. So the endless options there, as well as, like he mentioned, it's electric. Those that have been around the horses or Derby or Preakness know that noise is a big factor. These units are quiet. They're actually right up against the racetrack in some spots, running off of land power or generators, which are hundreds of feet away. So the electric units are great for us on that aspect, as well as some places actually have a high voltage and low voltage units where Jeff also can give us transformers to be single phase, 3-phase, 208, 240, 480 volt. So they have everything we need. I don't think we've ever been turned down. No, we don't have anything in stock. They always have stuff in stock. They're always working with us throughout the whole process. And in the event industry, if there's things change on daily, maybe sometimes hourly. And I know I annoy him and his team, but they're great to work with. And we add a unit, take a unit off same day. For Churchill, it's all timed. This year, actually, the weather was a big factor, so we had to push some deliveries back. But they worked with us. We're partners, no additional charges, no side talk or anything like that. It was great. Everything was positive, and they did what they had to do and accommodate us to fit our needs. All units are on site right now. Half of them are hooked up, half of them are loaded, as we're getting other ones hooked up. So from 2 weeks ago to today, seamless event, and everything's been great.
Awesome. I appreciate the kind words, Tom. And like you said, this cold storage does matter when you're getting into these events. If the food isn't, accessible right there, ready to go, and, under the tents, by the kitchen, it makes it difficult, for the health inspectors and stuff to give you those permits to go ahead and open those kitchens. So, and one of the other things that WillScot does, it's a little bit different than some of the other suppliers, is we do offer the telematics, and it's ready to go. It's an option that can be chosen. It's smart, scalable, reliable, right? Something you can see the temperature, you can control the humidity, you can get alerts to see if the unit may be having an issue, if you're freezing up, if the doors are open. Just a lot of different things that the temperature monitoring, that aspect of things could be a benefit in this space. And I know, Tom, you guys use some of that for your own units.
Yes. If I could jump in real quick, this is great. This is an awesome idea. I know it's out there, and we just started using it with WillScot and Jeff. This is great because a lot of times we have, service calls, or we're on one side of an event site and they're on the other side and saying it's not working, it's not cooling. 9 times out of 10, they just didn't close the door all the way, and we can open up our laptop and look at all of our units, and he has a history. He can tell us the temperatures in your last 24 hours. He can show us if the door sensor's open, and we can usually fix the problem over the phone if we can't get to them right away. Again, food and storage is very big, expensive, so we can't have no downtime. So this is a great tool to have, and we just started using this, and it's making things a lot easier, cuts down on the service calls, and we can actually troubleshoot not on site. So this is a great thing, and definitely gonna be using a lot more of it.
Nope, it's a fantastic tool and option that we do offer, and we enjoy it quite a bit. One of the challenges of when you're doing these events is logistics, right? There's a lot of in and out. There's a lot of timing, a lot of things going on. it's considered, almost like the Derby, right? High stakes, high standards. If
Yes.
if these aren't in place, we don't have the right equipment, and we're not ready to go when you are. It comes with a high risk for you guys.
Oh yeah, this is huge. This refrigeration and everything, all of our talks are around these units. They build their drawings around them. These got to go in first before the tents, before the fencing, and they have to be accessible for the delivery trucks. And they load these things up because they can't have deliveries. The days up to the event. Security locks everything down, so they are putting all their product in these boxes, and we have to have them ready for them weeks in advance. So they can hook up the electricity, so they can do their inspections. So there's weeks that go ahead of the actual event that we're working with his team, making sure everything's in place. It's operational. We pass our inspections, but it's not just a drop and go in the event industry. Like some places where have expanded operations where it's got to be a timeline and it's got to fit in that block. If not, it kind of messes up the whole sequence. Tents can't go in, the fence can't go in. We have pushback inspections, and so yes, it's very challenging. We have tons of meetings, weekly, daily, and on this event daily, and we don't have no problems because everyone's open, communication's free, and we have a great partner, and we're always moving things around, and working with Will Scott and Jeff. It's been great. No, never say no, and we change our timeline. They do it like this year. Weather big factor. Push some things back, not a problem. So it's been perfect. Each challenge we overcame, and so far, knock on wood, things going well for this event.
Good. That's one of the benefits we have here at WillScot is the number of branches and locations that we do have. We'd be flexible no matter where the event might be, whether it's Kentucky, Florida, California, Las Vegas, be able to deploy these units at multiple sites all across the country gives us that flexibility to be there for, vendors like yourself that support all of the US. You guys do events all over. So we're be able to support that for you don't have to look for additional solutions. So here's a little bit we were talking about earlier of that on-site, the product plan and the schedule. And there's lots of tight timelines here that, you get the climate controlled units in the 20s, the 40s. We put an office container in, as well. But those timelines aren't just important to, us to make it happen. It's important for Tom and important for the track.
Yes, the timelines are huge, and like Jeff said, it's nice having one point of contact. You're not going around with a salesman, account manager. We got someone we deal with direct at Will Scott, and plus nationwide, we can call that one person, and they have equipment staged everywhere. We do stuff in New York. We're going to Saratoga, Florida, Nevada. So again, we can deal with. They have stuff everywhere staged. One person we talk to, we understand their system, how things work, and we're already a step ahead of everyone else with our partnership.
No, and as you can see here, these 15 units, while the event space is a big space, a lot of times it comes down to a quick in and a quick out. So all of this happened within a month's time of basically almost getting delivery to the time that has to be removed for the next opportunity. Just a few of the pictures here that we've captured over the years, some this year and some over the years, where the containers you can see are in tight locations in the photos. They're next to fencing, they're next to dumpsters, they got storage next to them. So the logistics and the portion about being there early is a big key, and the communication that we get from Tom and team is huge for us to be able to execute on that plan. Like, hey, we need this many here, we need to move this one out, we need this here on a certain date. And that's one of the great things about the logistics team, being able to make that happen and adapt to those situations. And here's a couple of your setups here, Tom, with tent
Yeah.
structures and kitchens all set up.
Yeah, these things, and these are big units. You're talking about 20, 40-foot units, so they're not small. So we want to get them in place right the first time instead of moving them around because you're bringing tractor trailers in. So that's all the logistics. The guys getting it right on the drawings, and we have one shot at it. Get them in place, and we make sure the customer that's where they want it. We can move them, but there's a lot involved. So a lot of the logistics with Jeff, the transport, their sales team, operations, security. So, and you can see in the picture, this is tucked behind the tent on this one, actually behind this tent and kitchen we built. So, yeah, some you're very visible, some are behind the scenes, but it takes a lot of logistics behind the scenes that people don't realize to make this happen.
Awesome. You know, just that we're talked about a lot of the climate controlled products here at WillScot, but when it comes to events, we have all the solutions that might be needed. We have the tent structures that we can offer. We can offer the dry storage as well. We have fencing capabilities, mobile offices, modular offices, portable restrooms. So, when you're thinking about events and you're thinking about setting it up and you're looking for that one-stop provider that can provide those solutions, WillScot is that. We are in the rental and leasing space to provide solutions for events, long-term needs, remodels, whatever it might be. So when you're thinking about it, don't just think about climate controlled. WillScot in a whole has all the items to offer to get your complete events taken care of.
Yeah, that's great. One-stop shop. I mean, that's one of our selling points on our side. We work with you guys on the mobile offices. Usually on all of our projects, we have the offices out there for us, for our customers, the restrooms, dry storage. So we use a lot of your equipment. Now we got the clear span structures, which we do with our dining facilities. So, it's helps us out. Instead of pulling multiple vendors together, now we can just work with one point of contact, one company. So it's great, so now going forward, that we got the fencing and the clear span structure. So we'll be adding more services and equipment availability on our end going forward.
Awesome. It's good to hear. And as we get going into here, we want to open it up a little bit for some Q&A. I think Brittany might have taken a few of those down along the way and see what Tom and I can answer.
Awesome. Yeah, we actually did. We have a few pop in here. I'll start off. It looks like this one is going to be for Jeff.
Okay.
And they're saying, I'm in a different industry. I don't always do events. Are these products only good for events, or how else can I use them?
No, that's a good question. Events are a big, piece of business for cold storage or climate controlled products. But, anywhere from a long-term storage application for a food manufacturer or growth to a pharmaceutical location to just a quick moving of over the road of product, these items can be used for multiple, sectors of business. There's not just one use case. We use it in construction. We use it in pharmaceutical, composites. There's a lot of different uses. The events are short-term rentals, but we do a lot of long-term storage solutions and help find the problem that they may be encountering and look to find the solution and get this product on site for them. So events are something we do a lot of, but we do a lot of other long-term business.
And I can jump in real quick. To go along with that, yeah, we know we do expanded operations. If a facility, does a larger capacity they can hold, they bring in these units for extra storage. There's, flower businesses during Valentine's Day that use these. We're not, we get calls all the time for all kinds of stuff, and if it doesn't fit our scope, we go right to Jeff and his team and hand it over. And we even all adapted during COVID. Not this was special instances, but they had different morgues and stuff set up. They used refrigeration for all kinds of stuff back then. But no, not just events. Renovations, disaster relief, which is big. And a lot of times these units are they're very reliable. They're out there for years at a time sometimes, so they're great.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. We've got another one, and I think that this might be for Tom. It says, what is the typical size of events that you guys do? And what's the largest event you've ever done? And how many WillScot products did you have on there? Looks like it's what they're asking.
Good. That's a good question. Size, I'm not sure how to measure it in size. I can say probably one of our larger projects would be either the Kentucky Derby or the World Boy Scout Jamboree in West Virginia a couple of years ago, where we had over, I believe, like 20 units in West Virginia at Summit Betchel Reserve. That place is humongous. It's God, hundreds of acres. So that was probably our biggest. It was the world, people from the whole world coming, and we had to set up multiple temporary facilities, and each one had to be self-sustained with these refrigeration units. The typical size is the most popular is the 20 and 40-foot units that our customers like. They love them ground level. And we also use some of Jeff's reefer trailers where they actually hooked up, they load them and hook them up and take them to these different areas and unhook them and leave them there to stage them. So, and in size, I don't know how to say I could say we were out there for 3 months. That's how big it took, how long it took to set up, and the event was 2 weeks.
Yeah, that was one of the larger projects. And it was one of the most remote projects as well.
Yes.
And so the quality of equipment, the logistics, and the timing were key pieces, and it was a good collaboration by both parties.
Awesome. This one definitely is for Jeff. It's asking, how quickly can I get a climate controlled container on site?
Yeah, typically we'll say 3 to 5 days once an order is placed. We do typically like to have a little bit longer lead time and a little bit of heads up. There are logistical issues, but with the size and scope of the logistics teams and the trucking department for WillScot, we can adapt pretty quickly to try to get units on if needed as soon as possible. In some cases, we can deliver next day. In other cases, it may take a few days, all depending on the location. But our goal is to try to meet the customer's need when it needs to be there, and we'll do our best to make that happen.
Awesome. That brings us to our last question. So if Jeff, Tom, if you have any final remarks, please feel free to take us to the end here.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom, then I'll close out.
Sure. No, like I said, WillScot is very reliable, great team. Got to know Jeff for, over 10 years, and starting to know more of the team, the operations team, the sales team that he has around him. Great to work with. They're always transparent. They work with us. They never say no. And in the event industry, things are always changing. And I'm always asking Jeff for refrigeration yesterday. We can never plan ahead for some reason, but that's the part of the events and disaster relief. But nationwide service, great product compared to others, and all the services and equipment that they now have to offer is great because there's one point of contact, and I can kind of, just use one vendor compared to calling multiples. So their footprint has definitely gotten bigger. Their customer service is great, and I can call them 24/7. But we consider WillScot a great partner in our success.
I appreciate that, Tom, and same to you. 10 plus years of working together, the partnership's been great. We're glad that we can continue to grow with you and your team. It's been awesome to see some of the new events you've had, some of the scalability you've been able to do, and we're glad to be a part of that, and we look forward to continue to be part of that. When you think about the climate control products and all the other products that WillScot has, it's a really neat solution that you could go to one place and get all those options and get it taken care of with one phone call and be a one point of contact. So it's exciting to continue the partnership, and I appreciate you working with us and taking time today to talk about the climate controlled and specifically to the Kentucky Derby, but all the other events that we do handle. So thank you, Tom.
No, thank you guys. It's been a pleasure.
And Brittany?
Awesome. So our next steps are going to be, well, really quick, some information here. You can visit willscot.com or contact our sales team at this number on the screen. Like Jeff and Tom mentioned, you can get in touch with somebody and we'll get you some pricing. We'll keep you moving as quickly as possible. So next steps after, now that the presentation's over, we're going to go ahead and we're going to send you out an option to request the recording of this meeting. And a really short survey, if you can fill that out, it'll help us improve these as we go. As you know, this is the very first one. So again, thank you for joining us, and you'll always have the opportunity to register for some upcoming webinars. Thanks, guys. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Take
Definitely.
care.
You too.